Hey, what's up guys, Radku here, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today is going to be X-Sabers. Now, this deck really lacked consistency in my last profile, and I really didn't make it to play on its strong suits, and a lot of some people commented and told me what exactly I did wrong with this deck, and I thank everybody who did. And it definitely helped up the consistency to make it more of a Rescue Cat themed deck, going into stuff like True King of All Calamities to lock out your opponent after doing hand loops. And I definitely want to thank everybody who commented for just commenting. So again, I definitely upped the consistency of this deck. You're mainly centered around Rescue Cats. So there are other plays you can do, but you have a ton of cards that can get you into Rescue Cat. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting things off, I play 2 copies of double X-Saber Fault Troll. So this is a free special summon if your opponent, or if you control 2 or more X-Saber monsters. Then once per turn, you can target 1 level 4 or lower X-Saber in your graveyard, special summon it. This can really help get your play started, and this card in Airbellum is basically a 1-card Gothams, which is really good. You have other ways of getting into Gothams, but that's probably one of the simplest ways. Fault Troll, you don't want to brick with it in your opening hand, but you do have a few draw spells that are going to be good to get into it later in the game, once you have cards on the field, which sometimes this deck can be slow, but it can work better, and thanks to a bit of the consistency up with Rescue Cat, you can more accurately summon out all your monsters. Then I play 3 copies of double X-Saber Bogart Knight. Bogart Knight is probably one of your best starter cards. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a level 4 or lower X-Saber monster from your hand. So this and Airbellum is just a simple play starter. This can get you, it can't really do much starting out, but it can get you into a Souza, which pretty good. Souza's all in all good in general. Then I play 3 copies of Airbellum. So this deck is really cool, and it's mainly known for the ability to hand loop. It used to be like one of the highest tier decks, but then Rescue Cat got nerfed. So they used to use Airbellum to try to hand loop and start off it, but now really it's just Gotham's hand loop. So Airbellum is pretty good. It can start a hand loop, but I wouldn't bet too much on being able to trigger off its effect that often, because it's only a 1600 attack monster. Most boards your opponent are going to be able to beat over your Airbellum, but you could use it. Then I played 2 copies of double X-Saber Dark Soul. During the end phase, if this card was sent from your side of the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 X-Saber monster from your deck to your hand. So this is level 3, which means it's a prime target to go into Gothams. So you have like 2 of these on the field and 1 of these. You'll be able to go into Gothams pretty easily. So it isn't your go-to card, but it helps search out some of your cards. You can search out a Bogart Knight to help continue with your plays, but I wouldn't bet on it being like a required card. You can have it in the deck, but I'm sure you can find something to help it more that turn combos. 1 copy of this card that I couldn't pronounce in the last video and still can't pronounce. This helps search your X-Sabers, or get your X-Sabers from the graveyard, sorry. So this can definitely help after you've gone into synchro plays. Plus, you have cards like Souza and stuff, so you could use it to go into like a level 8 play, but at this point there's no real need. This is just simple play with just in general. you have 1-for-1 to summon it out. I forgot to add 1-for-1 to this deck, but I did end up bricking a lot with this card in my hand. 3 copies of Rescue Cat, probably one of the best cards in the deck. This card can special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast type beast type monsters from your deck, but they have their effects negated. So that doesn't really matter because you'll probably have something already. So if you summon out like an Airbellum or like this thing, but you can, that's pretty much your main targets for Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat is really good. It is a hard once per turn because it was nerfed, but that's okay because you have these cards that can pretty easily get you continuing into your play, so you can't loop Rescue Cat much anymore, but you can definitely still start off your combos with it. Then I play 3 copies of Summoner Monk. This is mainly to get into your Rescue Cat, but you can use it to get into some of your other monsters if you already triggered off Rescue Cat that turn. Really, like, these 2 can be your normal summon, but then you have other cards that can be your normal summon too if you don't draw it, but that's highly unlikely. But yeah, Summoner Monk is there to help up the consistency to get your Rescue Cat on the field. 3 copies of Ash, just because this deck is it is susceptible to negation. So if you want to stunt your opponent's turns, Ash and Nibiru definitely really help. 2 copies of Nibiru to get over your opponent's huge boards. So this deck doesn't have a ton of spot removal, but you have cards in the extra deck that can help. Then I play, for the spells, 1 copy Called by the Grave because it's limited, Evil People, 1 copy of Monster Reborn just because Monster Reborn, 1-for-1 so I can get into this card that I can never pronounce, 1 card Destruction to help up the consistency of the deck because I did brick a lot in this deck, so having card Destruction just as an option to re-loop your hand, 1 copy of Upstart because it's basically a free draw. Plus, if you can hand loop your opponent, then you won't have to worry about that 1000 life point gain because you'll be able to OTK them pretty easily. 1 copy of World Legacy Succession. Target 1 monster in your graveyard, special summon it to a zone a link monster points to. So this deck can use link summoning pretty effectively. You have Halki Fibrax in this deck, which, I mean, it's a free special summon. Then you can use Succession to summon out cards. This card isn't necessarily required in the deck, but it's still pretty good to have as a one-of because it's basically just another Monster Reborn. 3 copies of Fire Formation Tanky. Now, I'd see why people would want to play 2 copies of this, because you don't have a ton of Beast Warrior type monsters in this deck, but you got your 2 main ones right there, and the fact is that you need your normal summon to use Bogart Knight, so searching out Bogart Knight for your first turn if you just completely bricked and drew Called by the Grave, Monster Reborn, and 2 Fire Formation Tanky, I don't know, but let's say you bricked and you just need to continue your plays, so I guess you could use that, but yeah. 2 copies of Transmodify. Send 1 face-up monster you control to the graveyard, special summon from your deck 1 monster with the same type and attribute as that card, but 1 level higher. So, Airbellum is a Earth level 3 monster, so you can use Transmodify to summon out Rescue Cat, which is an Earth level 4 monster, and they're both beast type, so it's pretty easy to go into that. You can also use that with Dark Souls, which I think is the main way you're supposed to use it, but you do have a few graveyard plays in this deck, so you can definitely use Airbellum. So then I play 2 copies of Gotham Second Call. If you control an X-Saber Synchro monster, you can target 2 X-Saber monsters in your graveyard, special summon both of them, ignoring their summoning conditions, but change their attack to 0, also destroy them at the end phase. You can only activate 1 per turn, and then you can't activate, or you can't do your battle phase. So that's okay. You can use this turn 1 to go into another Gothams if you really want to. Realize it says ignoring their summoning condition. So if you use a Fault Troll and a Air Bellum to go into Gothams, you can use Second Call to go into another Gothams to start your hand loops, or even then you could go into a Trishula to snipe a card out of your opponent's hand again, and then you can use those two to go into a true King of all calamities, so that you can save your Gothams again for continuing your plays next turn. 2 copies of Pot Avarice. This deck can do Link spam and it can do synchro spam, so you're gonna have quite a few materials in the graveyard, and with all the one of cards that you can activate no matter what, it's pretty easy to have the materials to activate Pot of Avarice. But if that fails, I do play 1 copy of Desires, because Pot of Desires is just instant gratification. I prefer Avarice because Desires could end up banishing this thing, which you have 1/1 for, but none of your one of cards are super mandatory other than this. So if you do end up banishing this, it's gonna suck, but you have other cards you can use. Then I play 2 copies of Gotham's Emergency Call. If I face up X-Saber monster on the if I face up X-Saber monsters on the field, target 2 X-Saber monsters in the graveyard, special summon both to your side of the field. So again, like I said, if you use that combo, it doesn't ignore the summoning condition, so you can't summon out Fault Troll, but you can use it to go into like Azusa, which is pretty good. So that is it for the main deck. I've definitely upped the consistency of this deck a lot. Again, thank you to the people who told me in the comments what I did wrong. And definitely helps to have Rescue Cat in the deck, which upped the consistency like crazy. And then Upstart, just free draws. So going into the extra deck, 1 copy of Trishula. Just because Trishula is a super powerful card. This can it's a sharpshooter, shoots ice. When this card is synchro summon, you can banish up to 1 card from each your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. And the card is random. So again, hand looping in this deck is essential. So having Gothams to hand loop and then finishing off your hand loop with Trishula, then using both of them to go into calamities is pretty good. 1 copy of Cloud Castle, because Cloud Castle is great for recovery. This extra deck is, funny enough, just reminds me of my Dino deck profile. Go check that one out. It was a True King Dino deck, but Cloud Castle is great for recovery. If you have a Gothams in the grave, you can use it to special summon with Cloud Castle and then go into calamities. But really, you're not really gonna have another True King of all calamities. You can cut out cards like Boral Sword, which you're not gonna go into a ton because access code is easier to go into. You could cut that out, or maybe like the Gorgonic Guardian to have another True King of all calamities, but it isn't necessary, because if you hand loop your opponent completely, which unlikely, but it might happen, and then you have a calamities on the field to negate their summons, it's pretty easy to just stop your opponent from playing the game. 1 copy of Azusa, just because this is a generic, really good X-Saber monster. You contribute 1 X-Saber monster, then choose 1 of these effects. And this card gains the effects until the end of the turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, destroy that monster. Then this card cannot be destroyed by trap effects. It's kinda just a random final effect, because you don't really destroy, or people don't really use cards to destroy with traps unless you consider like evenly matched. But even then, it doesn't really matter. So too bad it doesn't say hand traps. That'd be funny. But yeah, Azusa is okay. It's kind of just a play for Bogart Knight and Air Bellum, because generic. But yeah, continuing from there, two copies of Gothams. I played 2 copies because of cards like Gotham Second Call. You need something else to go into. You could go into a Trishula or a Cloud Castle, but I prefer to go into another Gotham's if I can, because of the high amount of attack. So Gotham's is main for your main combo piece, because this is what helps you through your hand looping. You use Rescue Cat. Something you could have done in the old decks was use Rescue Cat to loop Gotham's effect, because you could continuously special summon level 3 X-Sabers and then tribute them for Gotham's effect to completely hand loop your opponent, which it isn't as consistent anymore because Rescue Cat has a hard once per turn on it, but it's definitely still pretty good. 1 copy of Gorgonic Guardian, just because it's generic for rock monsters, plus or not generic for rock monsters, generic for earth monsters. So this is just impossible to summon because I am dumb. Ignore this. Put another Calamities in here. I don't know how I didn't realize this last profile that I can't even go into it because it's rock type. But then I play, I'm sorry for this, 1 copy of True King of All Calamities. Make it 2 copies because I'm dumb. So Calamities is a great lockdown effect, plus you have cards like Cloud Castle that can summon back like Gotham's or Trishula to go into Calamities again. 1 copy of Access Code Talker, just because this is probably one of the best OTK makers in the game right now. 1 Boral Sword for generic OTKs. You can use either one, but I prefer to go into Boral Sword, but Boral Sword is harder, so I usually go into Access. 1 copy of Halky Fibrax, because you play that 1 tuner in the deck, and if you can't get to the tuner because you didn't draw into a Rescue Cat or a Summoner Monk or anything else that can search your 1 tuner, then going into Halky Fibrax could help get that out. 1 copy of Saryuja Skulldread, just because this deck can do link spam, like I said, but it probably won't go into this card a ton. 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, just for some spot removal. Same with Unicorn and Cerberus. And then 1 copy of Mrs. Radiant, just because this is generic for Earth monsters. Excuse me. Generic for Earth monsters. I was going to play the Charmer card for it, but I didn't really want to, because that was more of if your opponent is playing Earth monsters, so yeah. So that's pretty much it for the deck profile. Main deck has a lot more consistency now, and the extra deck has more of a theme now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and let me know what you thought, and let me know if there's anything you would change about this deck. And yeah, that's pretty much it, and I will see you in the next Yu-Gi-Oh video. Peace.